How are you, Michael?
Richard, I'm doing well. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right back to you, sir. Right back at you. So I was talking about this the other day with Brockman over here, and I did it with Dan Patrick today too. Is that when the Rams and the Titans made that trade, and we called you up, you thought it would have to be for Wentz because you liked Wentz better than Goff. Now you see what Goff looks like this year. Where do you stand on that subject after seeing these two kids ball out in 2017?
I mean,
Mike?
I'm where I am and have been since the first time I watched Carson Wentz throw a football, and it was cemented when I spent time with him, Rich. And you know, you and I were fortunate because we get to meet a lot of these guys in the NFL and spend time with them. And when you sit down with a Peyton Manning or a Matt Ryan or a Drew Brees or a Russell Wilson, you walk away with a certain feeling. And I remember being in Fargo, North Dakota at Wentz's pro day, and after I sat down with him, I walked away going, man, that's Tom Brady, that's Matt Ryan, that's Russell Wilson, that's who this kid is. So, he was number one on my entire board that year, not just a quarterback. What the Jared Goff thing is a revelation and confirmation to me how much coaching matters. And I think we're seeing it a lot, Rich, with how the young quarterbacks are being treated in the NFL today.
How so? Walk me through that, Mike.
All right, let's take Deshaun Watson. Okay?
Yep.
He was number one on my board last year as far as quarterbacks, but my comment was I didn't think he'd be ready to play year one. And I couldn't have been more wrong about that. And I had his game, I had two of his games this year. You know, he lit up New England, and I'm watching him play against New England. I'm watching all the game film. I saw him play live twice. And I give Bill O'Brien a ton of credit because what he's doing, Rich, is in the old days, and I mean just a couple of years ago, coaches took these huge playbooks and said to the rookie first-round quarterback, here you go, kid, go learn it, and we'll play you when you're ready, or we'll play you before you're ready, even though you haven't learned it. And now what they're doing is they're sitting down with these talented young kids, and they're saying, okay, what makes you comfortable? And I'm watching Deshaun Watson run around with zone read, quarterback draw, bootlegs, play actions, a bunch of stuff he did at Clemson. And the kid was just electrifying. It was so much fun to watch. And while he's learning how to be a pocket quarterback in the NFL, he's experiencing success because Bill O'Brien has allowed him to dictate what he's comfortable with. And I'm seeing that in Marcus Mariota. I feel a similar way with him. Jared Goff, this year, he gets a coach that he's really comfortable with, who's got an ability to sit down with him and say, what makes you comfortable? What'd you do at Cal? What are the looks you're comfortable with? And that's a long answer, Rich, and I apologize.
No.
But I really believe that NFL coaching staffs have kind of stepped back and said, okay, we have to play to the strength of what these talented kids bring to the NFL. And I give the coaches credit for that.
Well, Mike Mayock here in the Honda Insider Report. It's a copycat league. Don't you think there are going to be other teams that want to go get themselves a Sean McVay for their young quarterbacks? That may be one of the reasons why John Fox needs to look over his shoulder in Chicago with Mitchell Trubisky having the reins now thrown in his direction, Mike?
Well, I don't think it has to be a young guy. I think the smartest thing that Sean McVay did was hire an old defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And a veteran staff. I believe that. But I do believe it has to be, and it doesn't have to be the head coach, but that helps. I mean, Bill O'Brien's an older guy, and Bill O'Brien completely changed who he was when he had Christian Hackenberg at Penn State when he inherited Deshaun Watson. And I think that's what you've got to be willing to do. And I don't think it's just Sean McVay. I think the entire league. I mean, look in Tennessee, Marcus Mariota with the play action, the zone reads, when he's healthy, boy, he's explosive and he's becoming a better and better pocket quarterback. So I'm really positive and upbeat about a lot of these young quarterbacks, Rich, especially since we're going to lose a class of guys over the next few years, like the Eli Mannings and Drew Brees, Rivers, Roethlisberger, Brady. we're going to lose some special guys, and I'm excited about this young crop of quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, before we get to that young crop that's even coming out of college, let's hit Mariota, because I do have him coming up in about a half an hour on this show. The word regression has been used for him. What do you see when you've been evaluating Mariota this year for a team that's right there in the mix for the division, a wild card, or anything else for the Titans, Mike?
Well, I think they've been handcuffed. He's been handcuffed a little bit with injuries. And, when you're trying to come back and play and you're not 100% as a quarterback, and a big part of your game are your feet and ability to escape, and ability to run zone read on 3rd and 1 or 4th and goal. So I think he lost part of his upside coming back from some nicked up kind of injuries. But the flip side to that is it forced him to be in the pocket a little bit more than. And I don't see a regression. I just think you look at Jameis Winston. He's hurt right now. He was struggling a little bit. It's not going to be all clear sailing for Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. I mean, they're going to get spanked here and there. So I'm really bullish on Mariota. I think he's got a chance to be special.
Okay, Mike Mayock here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's get to Baker Mayfield. How do you think the NFL talent community and evaluation community is viewing what just happened in Kansas that's caused him to have the captaincy stripped from him this week and play a shortened game, if at all, this coming weekend, Mike?
No, I think they see some immaturity. But here's what I would tell you in the big picture, Rich. You would much rather how do I put it? That was an immature act, and certainly demanded that his coaching staff discipline him, and I'm happy they did. But he's a competitive kid, and I think NFL community would rather see a competitive quarterback who's immature and will grow out of that, rather than a player that's been arrested and there's been physical abuse, or there's been armed robbery, or all the stuff that we have to deal with at draft time. When you kind of slot that in, you want the guy to be a leader. Absolutely. Okay, what did he do? Well, in a competitive situation on game day, not off the field, on the field, he was a jerk and reacted to a group of Kansas kids that were jerks for not shaking hands pregame. And I hate it, and I'm happy he's disciplined, but let's see if he learns from the lesson and moves on. At the end of the day, he's a really competitive kid, and he did something he regrets, I'm sure.
So that'll definitely be brought up to him with the grease board in the rooms in Indianapolis come February.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
he'll have to explain it 1,000 times, but I don't think it's in any way. I think he'll handle it fine, and as long as there isn't any repeat issues, I don't think it's going to cost them anything at draft time.
Well, I don't know how deep you are in your evaluation. Again, you're calling games, NFL games during the season. So do you think he's got a first-round grade right now?
I think there are mixed emotions on this kid, and I spent about 4 hours watching his film 2 weeks ago. And I'll be honest, I went into it a little bit skeptical, and I had only really seen him on television. And I'm thinking, okay, he's a sawed-off 6 foot or 5'11" or whatever he really is, and he's got a little bit of genie magic to him. But I came away after 4 hours of tape going, oh, I better watch myself. This kid's got a legitimate arm, bigger arm than I expected. And what I really like, Rich, is when he escaped the pocket, he escaped to throw, not to run. And even though he can run, and I believe he's competitive. I believe he's tough. I think he's mostly accurate. I hate that conference from a tape-watching perspective. Quarterbacks throw to open windows all day long. And watching him and Mason Rudolph, Oklahoma State was watching 7-on-7 scrimmage. Nobody covers anybody.
So
it's unbelievable.
How do you handicap, as we're here on Thanksgiving weekend, Rosen and Darnold, who just played each other this past weekend, Mike?
That was a fun TV watch. I'm looking forward to getting the tape in. I would tell you this. Rosen, from a pure thrower perspective, is as gifted as anybody as I've seen in several years. I mean, he just can wake up at 4 a.m. and rip it. And there's no doubt about that. I think people want to dig on the kid more. what kind of kid really is he really, and that's part of the process, especially at that position. Darnold, I love his competitiveness. I love him being out of the box. I love that he averaged 20-some points a game in high school basketball. You can see it in his football game. You can see him leading the fast break and distributing the ball. Having said that, I'd love to see him have another year in college just because he's been so inconsistent this year. And I'm intrigued by Lamar Jackson, and I'm intrigued by Josh Allen for different reasons. And Rich, there's a kid at Auburn that could come out. There's a kid at Mississippi State. And the senior class this year, we already talked about Mayfield and Rudolph. There's guys like Luke Falk and Riley Ferguson. And I threw in a tape because he might get a Senior Bowl invite of a kid from Sam Houston State named Jeremiah Briscoe. I never heard of him. And he rips it. Big arm. So it's early in my process, but I'm kind of leaning towards being really excited about this group of quarterbacks, depending on who actually declares with the underclassmen.
Sure. And last one for you, Mike, is Saquon Barkley just jumps off the screen right at me. And when I look at him, I see perhaps a more talented Devontae Freeman, Mike, and him in that San Francisco Kyle Shanahan offense would just – holy cow, that would be potent. I'm wondering how you evaluate him. Last one for you here in the Honda Insider Report as we're getting set for Thanksgiving weekend.
Well, if the Heisman Trophy really went to the best player in the country, he would probably win it hands down. But it doesn't. And he's as good a running back as I've evaluated in a long time. His Iowa tape is the most special running back tape I've seen in years. Zeke Elliott went at number 4, and I think this kid's got more upside both on and off the field than Zeke did. So I think, and again, I'm nowhere near done all my tape for this year, but so far he's the best player I've seen on tape.
Mike, you have a great Thanksgiving. Where are you going to spend it?
I'm going to have a quick family thing at noon tomorrow, and then get in my car and drive to Washington because I've got the Redskins-Giants tomorrow night.
Oh, man, I look forward to that call for you, Mike. I'll keep my ear gate, as Mike Irvin would say, out for that one.
How about, did you see Irv with his offensive lineman rant?
Oh, Mike, he did it in the meeting on Saturday, and we're like, we got to put this on television, that all you got to do, he tells, did you miss this one, Brockman? He says all you got to do is tell, I tell 300-pound guys,
okay.
3 and 3. You're 300 pounds. That guy's 300 pounds. Stay in front of him for 3 seconds, and you can make $300 million. What'd you think of that? What'd you think, Mike?
I watched the rant, and the best part of it was Marshall's face in the background.
It was the same face he had in the meeting, Mike. It was fantastic.
God bless him. He's nuts. God bless him.
Same to you, Mike. Best to all the Mayocks, and we'll chat down the line. Always miss chatting with you. We got to do it more.
Thanks, Rich. Have fun.
That's Mike Mayock, at Mike Mayock on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.